right. I'd probably be lying if I told you I knew it was Hall of Fame induction Sunday. Apparently, a number of really big figures from the 90s and 2000s have been inducted, including Mariano Rivera. And I believe I saw Bernie Williams. He was either getting inducted or he was. I think he just did the Star Spangled Banner on his guitar. So this is a story that I think most people, if you're a big baseball fan, and I could probably say there's a lot of people who are a little higher on the list than me at this point, although still once in a while I try to catch a game. I caught a game last week between the Dodgers and I think it was the Nationals. But Mariano Rivera is one of the only people, or what does it say here? It says that he was unanimous, and it's pretty rare to be a unanimous person. You also have Edgar Martinez is in the Hall of Fame. He never won a title, but Martinez was pretty good hitter. But that's not the point. We're talking today about Mariano Rivera and essentially this desire by the Daily Beast to make political a day that didn't have to be political because, look, I get it that people have this attitude that everything has to be connected to different struggles and world events and things like that. But I don't see what real benefit for whatever cause you're advocating for there would be in attacking a guy who was a closing pitcher for about 10, 15 years for the Yankees, or maybe might have even been 20 years. And that's what's really the issue here. This is not going to change Mariano Rivera's mind. It's not going to change the minds of Yankee fans. It's not going to change the minds of Red Sox fans or anyone. And I'm not a Yankees fan. I'm a Cubs fan. But most people would say that Mariano Rivera played for such a long time, performed so well, and was such a asset to the game that nobody really cares about anything else he does. I personally could care less if he retired and literally slept all day and ate ice cream, because he won, I believe, 6 World Series, if not more. He won it was 3 in the 90s. It doesn't matter. And he's the all-time saves leader in Major League Baseball by, I believe, over 150 saves over Lee Smith, who also had a pretty long career. So, yeah, I think that it's pretty scummy to go after somebody like Mariano Rivera on this type of point. It says here, Mariano Rivera, the greatest relief pitcher in baseball history, will be formally enshrined in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame on Sunday. A throng of New York Yankee diehards will surely make the trek to Cooperstown, New York, to take in the proceedings and relive treasured memories. For countless fans, Rivera is baseball royalty and idol, worshipped for his on-field performance, deadly mastery of a cut fastball, and pinpoint control. To this day, he is held up as the ideal athlete, bestowed with endless grace and an unflappable demeanor on the mound that belied a burning competitive desire. Rivera represents a nearly unbroken succession of Yankee greatness that stretches all the way back to the 1920s, from Ruth and Gehrig to DiMaggio and Mantle, and then Reggie Jackson and Derek Jeter. And over the past 3 years, he's also served at the pleasure of a racist president, taken part in thinly veiled propaganda on behalf of a far-right government in Israel, and gone chummy with outright bigots and apocalyptic loons. None of this will be inscribed on his Hall of Fame plaque. It should. That's the real crazy part. He's saying that it should, even if much of the sports world would very much like to pretend none of it exists. At least one Yankee fan would like to make sure it remains front and center. Let's see who this person is. So I don't see what's going on here. You have Paul O'Neill, whatever. So Mariano Rivera grew up in Panama. So then it goes through his entire career and whatever. And then he says Rivera insisted he would retire from baseball in 2003 in order to focus on evangelical work. Using Philippians 4:13 was scribbled on his cleats. The year he retired, Rivera's charitable organization, one very much powered by his faith, was distributing nearly $1 million annually, according to New York Magazine. He recently founded a church in New Rochelle, New York. His wife serves as a pastor. When Rivera gave up the game-winning single that cost the Yankees the 2001 World Series, he said it was part of the greater good, God's plan even, because doing so prevented a teammate from possibly getting on a plane that crashed. And when it comes to his signature pitch, he put it in me. Rivera said he put it in me for me to use it to bring glory not to Mariano Rivera, but to the Lord. And then he goes into basically going after Rivera's religion. Now, I'm not a Christian. I happen to be Jewish. I don't care about Rivera's religion. If he, either way, I could care less. To me, it's really he was a closer for the Yankees. The team I didn't like, but one of the greatest players of all time. It says, but the vast majority of evangelical Christians also believe in a particular messianic biblical prophecy. Jews must rule the Holy Land before Christ can return. Whether Rivera ascribes to those beliefs entirely is unclear, but his support for Israel and the Israel Defense Forces is a matter of public record. He has traveled to Israel on multiple occasions, possibly beginning in 2013. Now, what the Daily Beast slips up in doing is claiming that this is public record, but then you see it here. They say Mariano Rivera, who would be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame on Sunday, has managed to keep his political leanings hidden for decades. But it's public record. So what gives Daily Beast? It can't be hidden for decades and then also public record. That doesn't make any sense. That year, the New York Board of Rabbis named Rivera its Man of the Year. During the award ceremony, NYBR's executive vice president, Joseph Potasnik, claimed Rivera would accompany him to Israel for 10 days. The Daily Beast was not able to uncover concurrent reporting verifying the assertion, and he did not respond to multiple requests for comment. However, on his WABC radio show in June 2015, Potasnik said Rivera and his family had spent 5 days with him there. In this case, reports exist which back up Potasnik. Rivera did visit religious landmarks and chatted up government officials. And then they go further into this and say, for example, they kind of nitpick over this trip that Rivera took. And then it says in 2018, Rivera returned to Israel, touring a military base in a venture organized by the NYBR and the Friends of the Israel Defense Forces, a multi-million-dollar U.S.-based nonprofit organization that does charitable work on behalf of the IDF. Randy Levine, the current Yankees president, whose name was floated as a candidate to replace Reince Priebus as Trump's chief of staff, has also participated in FIDF fundraisers and promotional events. It doesn't matter. Who cares? While there, Rivera said the IDF trained soldiers to be, quote, a better person, a better citizen, and a better human being, according to a statement put out by the IDF. 2.5 months later, Israeli soldiers killed at least 60 Palestinian protesters in Gaza and injured thousands more. The excursion went so well, David Freeman, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, who once described J Street, a Jewish lobbying group that has endorsed the two-state solution, as, quote, worse than capos, proudly tweeted a photo shaking hands with Rivera. So here's the context that they're kind of muddling here. Mariano Rivera is, again, first of all, he is an evangelical Christian. Second of all, he likely felt it was a big desire of his to visit Israel before he died at least one time, and apparently he's visited it multiple times. And this is a religious event for him, and why would he not embrace opportunities to, I guess, meet with some of these people there, or with David Freeman, the U.S. ambassador. And on top of that, he's a retired player, so who cares? Recently, Rivera has aligned with an even more openly extremist and Islamophobic Israel backer, Pastor John Hagee, who pushed the Trump administration to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem and has long made it clear that his support for Israel is tied to his end of the world Christian theology. That theology has led Hagee to offer some disturbing and deeply bigoted statements. During a sermon in the late 90s, Hagee said the Holocaust was a result of divine intervention, adding that Hitler was a, quote, hunter who was needed to shepherd the Jewish people to Palestine. So I'll tell you what the real issue is here. You don't have to agree with anything that John Hagee believes. I certainly think that a lot of these people are kind of whacked out. And I really, they do give me the creeps at many points. I'm a former IDF soldier, and when I hear a lot of these evangelicals, their viewpoints and also their views on foreign policy, including foreign aid and the way that they want more and more U.S. commitments and the Iraq War and things like that. Yeah, I'm against people like John Hagee, but that's not me. This we're talking about Mariano Rivera. Rivera's religion is the same thing as this John Hagee, or to some degree it's pretty close. So if there's this idea that all Muslims should stick together because of Islamophobia, then they can't object to a lot of these people who are members of this Christians United for Israel. I've seen some of those people, they post their stuff online too. Some of them are more reasonable. Other ones I kind of get you kind of shake your head at some of their weird assertions. Because if you're not coming from that world of belief in Christ the way that they do, it doesn't really make that much sense. But we're talking about a person, Mariano Rivera, on his own time. He's already retired. He's already basically accomplished everything he needs to in life. And he's decided, I'm going to dedicate myself. So he's dedicating himself to his church. He's dedicating himself to these missions around the world, to alleviating poverty. And in some cases, he dedicates himself to Christian Zionism. And that's not really a problem, in my opinion. It's not a problem for me, by the way, that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar converted to Islam. Okay? And do I agree with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's political and religious beliefs? Absolutely not. But the fact is that I'm not going to castigate Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for his religious beliefs when the major reason that people know about Kareem is that he is one of the best centers in NBA history. He's won titles with the Lakers and the Bucks, and plus he's been retired for many, many years, and who cares now? It's water under the bridge. You could say the same thing about someone like, Tom Cruise. Okay, Tom Cruise has some very, very funky beliefs. He's into Scientology and all that. He's still an active person in Hollywood and all that. And yes, there are people who question Tom Cruise's personal life and his belief system because, yes, Scientology, there's a lot of questions about it. But that does not does not mean that you can go and tell Tom Cruise what to do with his own personal time. There's certainly different ways to go about it. I think the Tom Cruise example is more extreme than Kareem's example, but it's also more extreme than the Mariano Rivera example. There are a lot of athletes that finish their career in sports and decide, there's something I want more in life. Here, for example, is a video of Randall Cunningham. So I can't play most of this video, but I'm going to play a little bit of it. And this concerns Randall Cunningham after his career and I guess his awakening to faith. If you don't know, Randall Cunningham's a quarterback, spent most of his career with Philadelphia and then later with Minnesota and a couple other teams.
Time is always the great healer.
To receive something like this is my Hall of Fame. I'm satisfied now.
Less than a year later, on June 29, 2010, 2-year-old Christian Cunningham, who Randall held tight throughout the ceremony, tragically drowned in the family's pool.
He was a radiant, beautiful child, and that's truly what we are. We're God's children. We're here today and gone tomorrow, and that was God's will for him to go on back home. And so we celebrated his death. It was not a funeral. It was a going home celebration.
We've been grieving since last Tuesday. It's time to rejoice now.
And we celebrated the time that we had with him and the time that we'll be in paradise with him.
I was his earthly father, but our Father's with him now.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can actually see the Israel flag up there along with Mexico, South Africa. So he's an evangelical pastor now, and I haven't lost a child. I don't have any kids anyway. But I don't know what I would do if I lost my own kid. I've had friends who've lost their kids. For example, I had a friend or their brothers. For example, I have some friends whose brother overdosed from heroin. So look, people have different perspectives on life. And he, by the way, became a born again Christian before his son was his son drowned in the pool. So this is the Daily Beast, in my opinion, just looking for something to grasp for in terms of politicizing an event with Randall Cunningham, and for them to say that was hidden. Look, this is from Jewish News Syndicate from a few years ago, and it says here, it's from 2018 actually, so it's last year, less than a year ago. It showed Rivera. This is him, profile in the center, smiling with these people. Look, it's his private life. He can do whatever the hell he wants. He doesn't play for the Yankees anymore, by the way. It says here, 2015, Mariano Rivera prays for Yankees during visit to Israel. It's from the AP. This is from 2013, and it highlights the actual story that they were talking about with the New York Board of Rabbis. And really what I'm trying to get at here, it's that when we have athletes speak out on controversial issues, when they're actually in the actual on the field or on the court, whether you're talking about people like LeBron James or Kaepernick or Megan Rapinoe or people like that, well, at that point, these media people, the Daily Beast type, they love it. They can't have enough of it because they see that as people standing up for a just cause. But in this case, you're seeing someone who, when he started this, he was near retirement, and he was doing it on his own private time. He was probably paying for it himself, and he was probably doing it, as sort of a charitable endeavor of his own, which a lot of athletes do, by the way. A lot of people do charitable things on the side that they don't really get that much credit for. And they treat it like he's essentially spreading typhus or something. So that's about it for today. I know some of you might be watching this. You might be A, not Yankee fans, or B, not fans of Israel or whatever. But this is really an issue of how you define people's views in the public sphere. Should people be castigated for holding views that are against the media in areas that have nothing to do with those views? Yeah, there's a lot of people, for example, I bet you would go into these locker rooms, they wouldn't have a very PC stance on abortion, on gender identity, on issues of foreign trade, on issues of race, none of that. And that's what the media loves. They love to tear these people down for nothing if not this. That's about it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also subscribe to me on BitChute and on Minds. That's at Chef Leopard. Also on Subscribestar if you want to donate, at Chef Leopard. And on Gab at Starscream85.
Central